Good morning. This is the Temple Municipal Court. I'm Judge Person. I do welcome everybody here. I do want to clarify who's who, and there are some folks here I'm not completely clear on who they are. And so I just want to double check that. Let's see. Person identified as Carol Ann, I believe to be Ms. Hickam. She actually came in first.
Hey, sorry about that.
Okay, are you Ms. Hickam?
Yes.
Okay, I'll be right back with you. You're in here twice. I don't know if that's on purpose.
Let me see if I can fix that.
I'm just going to remove that person because it can cause conflict. And the name is so unique, the spelling of your name.
Mhm.
I think it is you. So I'm going to remove that person. If it boots you out, it shouldn't. Just go back in and I'll let you back in. Okay. But I think we're on by, did you dial in by phone as well?
No, I was on another page. It told me it would automatically start. I had to refresh it and everything.
Okay. All right. That should clear that up and not create more problems. I'll be right back with you. Ms. Bradley was second. And then Miss Annabelle Aguilar. Right now, no show on for Hernandez. So, my name is Judge Person. I will take everybody in the order that you appeared. I do want to give you some basic information before we get started. I want to let you know a few things. If you are given a ticket or issued a citation, those are all methods that we have under the law for accusing someone. That is what a ticket is. It's an accusation. And when you give a plea, you're giving your answer or response to that accusation. There are three options for pleading: guilty, not guilty, and no contest. Let me explain what those mean and tell you the direction each will take you, just so that you have a basic understanding. And then when I get to your case, if you have specific questions in your situation, I'll do my best to answer those without giving legal advice, okay? Because I'm not allowed to do that. If you want legal advice and you're not ready to enter a plea, you just tell me, Judge, I need time, and I will delay your case. If you have not entered a plea, then I will delay your case to give you time to consult with an attorney of your choice and come back and enter a plea at a different date. That doesn't mean you have to then hire someone. Sometimes people just need to get some advice, and maybe they have questions that I cannot answer. If I can't answer your question because it's legal advice, I'll explain to you what's happening. So don't feel nervous about asking questions. It's normal to do that. Now, if you plead guilty, you are saying, I committed this offense. You are admitting, just as your ticket is written or your citation is written, you're admitting that offense. And if you do that, I'm just going to move forward with sentencing. That normally, generally speaking, that means paying fines and costs, having it go on your record. There are some exceptions, which I will talk about in a moment, okay? If you plead not guilty, you're contesting the charge. You're saying, I want this case proven against me, so I won't sentence you at that point. What I'll do is start heading you toward trial, okay? So we have a pretrial docket that we do first, and if things aren't resolved at that pretrial level, we schedule trial, okay? So the first stop will be an online pretrial, and we'll schedule you for a final live trial. That's in case communication breaks down. We want to keep those cases on track, keep your rights intact. If the case settles, then you just go to the first online meeting. If it doesn't settle, we're having to sit down with you and figure out where you're trying to take your case, what kind of trial, and there's a layer of paperwork that we just can't effectively do as easily online. Okay. So what you can expect if you plead guilty as we move forward with sentencing. If you plead not guilty, we'll schedule the next hearing and start heading towards that trial proceeding. If you plead no contest, then you're just authorizing the court to find you guilty without admitting or denying it. It's just saying, I'm not contesting this case. Okay. So if you plead guilty or no contest, again, I move those forward. Okay. Now, as I said, the general rule is being found guilty, having it go on your record. There are several exceptions to that. If you qualify for a certain type of just automatic dismissal, that's usually on equipment violations and things like that. I'll explore that real quickly and see if we can get you to a dismissal. And I will do that even if you don't know the right question, okay? If it's a moving violation or a penal code violation, there usually are not automatic dismissals built into those, and I will start moving into sentencing. Now, at that point, if it's a moving violation under the traffic code, then the first thing I will look at is whether you're qualified for a driver safety course option that will result in a dismissal if you complete it. And I'll cue you on the qualifications at that point, because law speaking or legally speaking, it's just very specific what you have to, the person who's qualified to be in that, okay? It just has to do with the type of license you have and everything like that. So I'll do that automatically, even if you don't know the right questions, once again. If you qualify for driver safety and you want to do it and you need some time to get things pulled together to do the next step, sometimes I'll give you more time, okay? If you don't qualify, there are other options. Another option would be a deferred disposition. And that is exactly what it sounds like, but that's a legal term. Deferred meaning delayed, disposition meaning to make a finding. So I will delay making a finding of guilt, even though you've pled guilty or no contest. And I'll put some conditions in place. We'll put that in writing. You'll have to sign that paperwork, and we'll need to arrange that those signatures today. And then if you just follow that written order, you gain a dismissal and it keeps it off of your record, okay? Now, the trick to a deferred disposition under Texas law is you have to ask for one at the time that you enter a plea. So no contest, but I'd like a deferred, guilty, but I'd like a deferred. That's how you would ask, okay? If you can't remember the name of it, just ask me about that, okay? You don't have to remember the whole name. We just call it a deferred, okay? And so that's another way to keep the item from being on your record. The differences between that and a driver safety course, if you have a moving violation, is probably how much you pay and the type of course, okay? The best option is the driving course. The second best option is a deferred. Some people don't want to mess with all of that. They just want to do what we call a straight hit. It goes on their record, but they want a long period of time to pay something out. So that's another thing that happens, but that does go on your record. And then the final way to keep an item off of your record is if you qualify for teen court. So teen court is for high school students, middle school, high school students. College doesn't count for teen court, okay? And I will automatically start seeing if you want to do teen court. If you're qualified, that'll be where I'm you'll feel me push you gently there, because teen court is the best option for young people in terms of their record and in terms of what we call recidivism, recurrence rate. And recidivism, when you're talking traffic, is, you've moved into the leading bracket for death and dismemberment on the roadway. And I want to address that if I can, because I don't want you to become a statistic. If it's a penal code violation, I'm really thinking about your future, and I want you to think about your future, a future with a record versus a future without a record. And we address that record in part through teen court. Otherwise, it will look a lot like a deferred disposition. There are things for you to do, and you have to do them to gain the dismissal, okay? With all of these kinds of orders, I want to highlight one important thing, and that is that you're agreeing to be in these programs. And that means you're agreeing to keep up with it, okay? And if you just do it to punt it down the road, you're actually creating a more difficult position for yourself, because you've got to keep up with stuff, okay? You've got to keep your deadlines, get things in, and act and move like a person for whom it is important, okay? And that's what my expectation of you will be. I will not keep you guessing what you have to do. It'll be in writing. I'll explain it to you. I'll write it down. I'll give you a copy, and I'll be available through Zoom to talk to you about it if you get confused, okay? So we are always here for people who want to stay on track, okay? So I will now start moving quickly but I don't want to rush anybody, but I know your time is important. And I try to take people in the order that they have appeared. I believe Miss Hickam came in first, and then my second person is Miss Bradley, and then we have Miss Aguilar, and I'm missing a person who didn't appear. Don't do that. Don't blow off your deadlines. If you have a deadline, like let's say you sign up for one of these programs and your deadline is, hey, you've got a class due. And now you're thinking, oh no, it's due tomorrow. What do I do? Well, you call the court, you email the court, and let's get you into a Zoom meeting to talk about what happened, and then we'll try to get you back on track. If I can get you back on track, I will. If I can't, I'll explain what's happening. Okay. But it's always better to communicate a failure on your part than to blow it off and not show up, because that turns into warrants, fees, and a lot of complex stuff that happens. And those are last resort options that I actually would prefer not to utilize. They're just there for me if I have a blank wall that won't work with me. Okay. All right. So that's my philosophy. You've got it. Okay. Ms. Hickam, I'm just looking at your file. It looks to me like I have not yet accepted a plea on this case. And I do have your payment information, which helps me make better decisions as well. Because as with everything here, a lot of this is based on each individual's person's circumstances. So first, I want to let you know the offense that you're accused of is from that's your date of birth, excuse me, November 4th of 2020. The offense is speeding. And if you just paid that ticket out, it's $257. And so first I would ask you, how are you pleading to the accusation of speeding?
No contest.
Okay.
But I would also like to do the defer.
Right. So, and you are 22, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. With that, I am required, if you're 25 and under, I'm required to order a class, a driver safety course class. I'm still required to get it from you. Okay.
That's fine.
I can tell you're working through your employment situation having been changed, and right now still looking for work. Is that appropriate to say?
Yes.
Okay.
The union provides me with work.
Yeah. Oh, the union of what?
So I'm an apprentice for a union for welding, pipe fitting, and plumbing.
Great. And so right now you're collecting unemployment. What happened?
The job finished back in November. And when the job finished, they lay us off until they pull us out again for work. Normally the wait wouldn't be so long, but unfortunately, due to everything that's been going on, things have changed.
So that turns into limited income. Your bills are reasonable. Do you have any children?
No.
But I'm still finding that you would have difficulty, if not impossible, to make payment. And so I would declare you indigent and order community service instead of payment, unless you're looking for payments. If I do that, and the reason that we do that is I know, in your profession, people make good money, but I also know in your profession, it's that ebb and flow.
Yeah.
And so I just have to take where you are today. If it changes and you find that it's easier to make payment than to do the community service, you're going to need to get back on Zoom and just talk to me about it so we can keep you on that deferred. But I will grant your deferred request. It's a 13-hour community service order. That's going to be in lieu of payment. I will give you a list of places where you can do the community service. I've already given you triple credit up front. I'll give you a list of rules that tells you exactly what I expect and a timesheet to keep track of your hours. The due date for that will be the same due date as the class you're going to need to take. Both of those due March 22nd. Okay. And I'm looking, you're in Waco. Can we email you these documents? Have you signed them in either fax or email them back to us?
I can come in today and sign them.
Okay. Then what time should we look for you?
Before lunch.
Okay, that's perfect. We'll have it at the front desk. We have a COVID entry process, probably stuff you're familiar with. But when you pull up to the front, there'll be a phone number for the court. You call, we'll start working you in. You'll come in 10 to 15 minutes max, get your paperwork signed, get your paperwork copied, and then you'll be on your way. Okay.
Perfect.
But your order will say 120 days from today. If you've turned in your hours and you've turned in your class, then I will sign a dismissal for you. Okay.
Perfect.
Okay. Any questions?
No.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to remove you from the meeting. If you're heading over, we'll get it ready for you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, Miss Bradley. I'll wait for your sound to turn on.
Hello.
Hi. Thank you for your attention early. I could tell you were listening. And it looks like Dad's with you today. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Hi. Dad, what's your name?
Carl Bradley.
Thank you, Mr. Bradley.
Yes, ma'am.
She does have to have a parent present, but I appreciate your presence.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Ma'am, did you understand those options for pleading guilty, not guilty, and no contest?
Yes, ma'am.
Before we move forward, do you have any questions about what those mean or any questions about that?
No, ma'am.
Okay. And then the accusation that you have right now is a theft under $100.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
you work at Berkshire Brothers? Well,
Yes,
good for
ma'am.
you. That's wonderful. Cameron, okay. Hang on just a moment. Is she on time?
I think you should have asked her, is it going to affect your job? Because, you know,
She said it wasn't the lady when we were doing the papers.
I'm talking about,
Guilty or plead no contest because
yeah,
you wasn't really the one stealing. You was waiting on
someone
stealing.
stealing.
So maybe
You need to ask that question because you don't want nothing to go away that you don't want to go in a route that you don't have to go. You understand that? You don't
Your
want
dad's
nothing.
Your dad is on the right track. Sorry, I can hear everything. Dad is on the right track. Okay. And actually, sir, I appreciate you. Ms. Bradley, Dad's exactly right. And that would actually be the direction I would be heading. Okay. Because it's not just this job. Okay. Of course, you want to keep your job. Everyone wants to keep their job. The question is, your future. And thefts really impact the future. They really can. I've seen thefts change people's future. So first, I want to ask you, to the charge of theft, how are you pleading?
That's,
I put guilty on the
she
paper.
put guilty, Judge, but I don't think she understands really. You know, if she says guilty, I understand that goes on your record, right?
Right. So if you plead guilty or no contest, first of all, just for your comfort, sir, I just want you to know, if you're underage and you plead guilty, I accept that, and I actually appreciate young people being responsible for themselves. Okay. But I enter it as a no contest plea because I'm not always 100% sure that young people really get the far reaching impact.
Yeah, exactly.
But then the next question I ask you is, Ms. Bradley, and can I say your name right? Cartaya?
Cartaya.
Cartaya, okay. Cartaya, what do you want to do when you get older? You're 16, so you still have a big future ahead. What do you want to do? What do you want to be?
A nurse.
Okay, you can't be a nurse. We have an exception, okay? But I want to shock you just a little bit because this offense, sweetheart, you can't be a nurse. Because you know what the state of Texas says is that if you're going to work with people who are like dying, they don't know, might not even know you're in the room. We don't let thieves go do that. Okay. So you're going to turn this around. Okay. All right. Let me let you get kind of through the emotional response because I'm actually encouraged by that response. Okay. The fact that you've cried easily tells me that you have thought about this and you've thought about your future. And someone who blows me off isn't going to change, but I think that you will. Okay. All right. I'm going to ask staff a quick question. Give you a few minutes to compose yourself. But Dad is on the right track and he's trying to steer you in the right direction. And in this case, so am I. Okay. I would want to make an exception. Ask Nicole for that. But I would want to put her on a Zoom pretrial to turn her class in, because that's what I would do with her in 1049.
Just
I do want to. She
be
missed it.
around people. Everybody will be somewhere, Tanya. You can't do that,
So here's how I view it.
especially if they.
Pertea, did I do that right? Pertea?
Cartire.
Pertea, I'm sorry.
Cartire.
I'm going to try to make a note that helps me with that. Pertea. Here's the thing. I view you as a member of my community. I know it's Cameron, but this is Bell County, okay? And we're all here together, okay? And what I want is for you to be a productive member of my community, even if you go off and become somebody else's community member, okay? So I view it personally, okay? Just like I viewed thieving as you stole from me, I view putting you back in place and getting you back on track as part of me, okay? Part of my town, okay? So we have two options for this. One would be teen court. Okay, we actually have three, but the two that are most interesting for you, one would be teen court. We have a first offender program that says that if it's your first offense, which this is, and you get a class done in theft intervention, which does help you, that I will dismiss your ticket, okay? And it will be off your record, okay? And you are underage, so there is quite a bit of shielding of your record. And you will have the right to have what's called an expunction if the record haunts you, okay? So one problem we have is you missed your court date at the bottom of your ticket by 1 day. And normally that first offender program, it's not one that is by law. It's by agreement with the city prosecutor's office. I think that she will, but I can't guarantee that she will make an exception for that 1 day. What I want to do is, if she doesn't, then teen court is our next go-to, and that's still a dismissal process. Okay, are you with me so far? 2 ways to get a dismissal. Both of those ways require that class. Okay. So I'm going to schedule you for a pretrial where that prosecutor will be present and you will bring a certificate of completion of a theft intervention class. And I'll talk to you about that in a minute. If you have your certificate of completion turned into the court and you come back onto the Zoom meeting and she says, no, I won't make an exception, then I'm going to take you from there and we're going to do teen court. And then I'll require the class 2 and you'll already have it. Are you with me?
Yes, ma'am.
And I want that class pretty quickly because I don't want you to reoffend. And the studies are really clear on that. People who complete that class, as a general rule, don't reoffend. I mean, 90% or more. Okay. If they really sit down and take it. Now, you're online now. Is that something you can do a class online?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's going to be an 8-hour class. I think it's 8 hours. Is that right? Yeah. And it's under $50. You'll have to pay for that class. Okay. But we're looking at not paying a fine because I would rather you pay for a class. You know what I'm saying? I want the correction for you and your future to open back up. And that's more important than paying fines and costs. Okay. And studies are clear that young people paying a fine generally doesn't really do a whole lot, but a class can help. So what I'm going to do is I'll need you to sign for the next court date, and you're in Cameron, so we've got to figure out how to get your signature. Can we get your signature this morning sometime?
We can go down to main Praton.
Sorry?
Yeah,
Email it.
we could email it.
If you could print it at home and email it back, that's fine.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
Okay, So we'll email this, and it's just going to be a reset to another docket
Yes,
on
ma'am.
Zoom. And I'll be there. And then there will also be information for an online class for you to take. Okay. And you don't need to take it all at once. You just need to get it done and get a certificate to us before the next setting. So do a couple hours like that and get it done so that you really take it in, get your certificate turned in, and show up at the next meeting on time. And I will ask the prosecutor if she's willing to make an exception. And if she says no, then I'll say, let's do teen court. And with teen court, I'll say, I also need $20 and another signature and a class. And you'll say, but I already did the class. And I'll say, great, got it. Okay. So you will not hurt yourself taking that class early. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
We need it now because I don't want you to do this again in between now and the next setting.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
But the reality is, this is the last point in time for you to change this around for yourself. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And I want that for you. And I think there's potential for you to do good. Okay. In the world. So let's get you back on track. How do you think? Or what do you think about that? How does that sound?
Must sound pretty good because she's crying.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're relieved. But now you got to do your part. Okay. Okay. The email we used today, does that work well for you? Is that the best
Yes,
email?
ma'am.
Okay.
Tony,
Our reset date is going to be February 23rd. Okay, you put 222. Here's what I've got.
about February 23rd, you need other class and stuff down.
Okay.
It'd be best to go on and knock it out real quick.
We'll have to figure out how we do this because what am I asking her?
Won't have nothing hanging over your head.
Yes, what's the final date? I mean, what's that?
Look your way with that, so you need to really thank her.
February 23rd is going to be our next date. Can you be there?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right, we're going to email everything to you. Do you have any questions right now?
No, ma'am.
How about you, Mr. Carl?
No,
Bradley?
I thank you a lot, though. Thank you for giving my daughter another chance.
I think that's what we need to do.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Of course. Okay. If you wind up with questions between now and your setting, call the court and ask for a Zoom meeting and we'll get you set up. Otherwise, I'll see you on the 23rd of February with your class turned in. Email it beforehand. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, I didn't mean to be confusing. Hi, Ms. Aguilar.
Hello, good morning.
Give me just a moment to catch up.
Mhm.
Thank you. We have a payment plan that hasn't really made it off the ground. The first thing I want to do is just confirm some information. Can you raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm that the information you're providing is true, correct, and accurate? So help you God?
Yes,
Okay. The information I have was babysitting information, and this is back in October. So I want to confirm, are you working at this time?
I am not. And I did send an email about an address change. At the time that I sent the email, I wasn't able to make a call because my phone was off, but it's on now.
Are you
And
at 209 Luther Drive?
yes, ma'am. And I'm still
80
waiting on my new ID to come in to send a picture of that.
Okay. And are you living with family? You're living with your sister?
Oh, no, I'm living with a friend now. My sister kicked me out.
Okay. And have you paid bills there yet?
I have not.
Okay. And what's your cell phone bill?
My cell phone right now is only 35.
Okay. And then, do you have food stamps?
I do not.
And otherwise, no bills. Is that correct?
No, ma'am. Yes, ma'am,
And
that's
you
correct.
okay. And you put on here that you could pay $40 to $50, but what would be the source of that? How would you be doing that?
At the time, it was going to be my dad helping me out, but he cannot help me out because he's having his own issues with the financial.
Okay. So we're going to shift what we're doing and we're going to shift it to community service. Give me
Mhm.
just a moment to get that totaled up. Okay, 33 hours. We're going to start with a due date of March 22nd. You don't have to do these hours in Temple. You can do them at any nonprofit in your community. And the paperwork that I give you with the rules will actually say on there any nonprofit in your community. The list I have are all local. Some of those you'll find in your own community. Like, for example, we have a place here called St. Vincent de Paul. And some places have St. Vincent de Paul's around Texas. Some places don't. Okay. That's partly a thrift store for charity and it's partly a food bank. There are things like that in your own community. And I'm going to be encouraging you to pursue those in your own community. And, you know, get involved in things that are important to Georgetown at this point. And I'll take those hours from your town, okay?
Okay.
So you'll use it as a guideline. This will keep you out of warrant, but your due date is going to be, you know, as I said, March 22nd. And if you can't get it done by then and turned in so that we can verify it by that date, then you're going to need to drop in either by email or by Zoom and explain what's going on and why you need more time and how much time you're going to need to finish it. So keep up with the deadline, okay? We will email the information to you. I don't need you to drive over for a signature on this one. I can just email it to the email that we use to set this meeting up. Is that still the best one?
Yes, ma'am. I believe it's the one that has Annabelle Aguilar 16 at gmail.com.
I don't know. Let me look. What email did you use today?
16.
Okay. Yes, Annabella Aguilar 16 at Gmail. Okay. So we'll still use that. And that you keep up to date just like you would an address at this point. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Do you have any questions?
At the moment, I do not.
Okay. As always, if you do, schedule a time to get on Zoom and we'll discuss it.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
You should be hearing from us on your email within the next 15 to 30 minutes. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
All right. I'll remove you, Ms. LeBoy. And seeing no further persons, I guess Mr. Hernandez is MIA. So we'll move forward and issue warrants. I don't think I pulled his warrants because his history was such I didn't feel like I should. So no, he'll just stay. I might let the local police know that we're good to go with him because that's just ridiculous. Okay, we are done.